Welcome to the Sensible Center podcast, where two middle-aged guys frequently talk politics and political reform. Grab an adult beverage and enjoy the show. Further information can be found at sensiblecenterpack.com. You can reach us at sensiblecenterpack@gmail.com or follow us on X at USASCPack. Hey Bob, how you doing?
Hey Kevin,
Well,
how are you?
We're going to jump right into this because we've been told, no chit chat.
What a debate that was.
And we have a debate to talk about. It was
Can you tell the election's getting close?
Yeah, it's getting wacky out there. We got cat and dog eating going on. We got
Don't knock it till you try it.
we've got all kinds of strange things. And it's still only September. I can't imagine what October will bring. But I think we might have watched different debates last night as we were texting back and forth. As you said, I think you said, "Are you watching the same debate that I am?"
I did. I think our TVs are showing a different debate along those lines.
Which is kind of funny. I had to double check that, but no, I think we ended up watching the same debate at the end of the day. So let's just start off the top, and let's rate each at the same time. So I'll say Kamala, and then we'll each speak our rating of her performance at the same time. So we can't, judge each other's rating. Okay?
All right, so let's set some ground rules. How are we judging, right? Are we judging on performance? Are we judging on believability? Are we judging on...
do you want to break it down to different segments, or do you want to just do it overall and then explain your rating? How about we do that?
All right, that sounds good.
All right. So overall, we're going to do Kamala first. 1, 2, 3. B+.
B-.
Oh, you're giving her a B-. See, we're not that far off. We are not that far off. So, from my standpoint, the B+ is, I think, primarily what she needed to prove was sort of competence and a presidential demeanor. And so I give her high marks on that. I think the prosecutor side of her came out. I think I didn't see really the word salads that she's been known for. None of the cackling that she's been...
She had a little cackle.
...disparaged for. The looks were... I like the side looks at Trump. I think those were very effective. They spoke a lot without her speaking. I didn't like that she avoided answering questions, but I think they both sort of did. So that drove her down a little bit. I think she had several missed opportunities, which we can talk about a little later, that, as we were texting back and forth, I'm like, she could have said this line. So I think she was well prepared, all things considered. So that's where I came up with a B+. How did you come up with B-?
All right. So I don't think she proved competence. I'll point that out.
Okay.
Like you said, she didn't really answer any questions. I think she was effective at goading Trump, and I think
I forgot to mention that one. Yes.
When you talk about a debate, in my mind, I think a debate from the standpoint of you present an idea, I present an idea, and we show contrast. That's not what debates are anymore, right?
No, not.
How can we make the other person look bad, or how many one-shots can we get in at the other person, and sound bites, right?
Right, it's point scoring, right?
Yeah, and I think, she came out on top there for the most part.
Okay.
She did cackle when it came to the pet eating comment, which I don't know about you, but if somebody ate my pet and then someone laughed about it, I wouldn't be real happy. But she mentioned a lot of hoaxes, right? Bloodbath hoax. Trump didn't say a bloodbath was going to occur if he lost the election. At least not in the sense she presented it. I still think the very fine people thing, that's a hoax. Late term abortion does exist in this country, and she presented that it doesn't. Um, Crime data, what
Well,
she said about that was
I think
false. Border security, there's lots and lots of falsehoods presented there about what she's done with border security. What she said and what the reality is obviously not true. Project 2025, Trump has nothing to do with that. There's no evidence that he has anything to do with that. She keeps presenting that as his. She said she's not against fracking. She said in the past, let me be very clear that I don't want fracking, but I'm against fracking and I'll make fracking illegal. It's so there was a lot of falsehoods that she presented that I thought she got away with that she probably shouldn't have, given the design of the debate with the mics off and Trump kind of being on his heels a bit. So overall, I think B minus, mostly because she didn't lose, and I think expectations for her were low.
yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about falsehoods, I I would say a lot of the ones you brought up are shaded falsehoods. They're not overly crazy falsehoods, which Trump likes to bargain in. But I do think she tried to paint him a certain way, and I think the crime data you could look at different ways. The border stuff you could look at different ways. Um, you could say that it was false, and you could also make the argument that maybe there's a good deal of truth in that. So if you want to judge on falsehoods, I still think Trump wins that. So I'm not saying that she was perfect. I don't think anyone's perfect in a debate regarding saying all complete truths, but I think if you compare the two, I would say Trump racked up a bigger figure in that regard. So let's go to Trump, and then we could talk about the particulars. So overall performance rating of Trump. One,
Hang
two.
on a second. I need to think about this for a second.
All right, all right. I surprised you with this.
Yeah, you did. I'm just trying to decide, what's a all right. I'm good. I'm ready.
You're ready. You did
Yeah.
some calculating on the side.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Carry the three.
hmm
All right. Trump rating.
One,
One, two,
two,
three.
three.
C.
B minus.
A B minus too?
Yep.
Oh, so you have him the same rating.
I do.
It was a jump ball.
I think overall he did fine. First of all, and I know this has been said out in the media already. I think he maybe said it himself, but I feel like he was debating three people. He wasn't just debating Kamala, and when you take that into consideration, that means one. That counts for something.
We could get into that, but
here's why
I'm kind of I'm tired of hearing that when it's heads I win, tails I lose. So if I would have won it, it wouldn't have been a deal. I mean, it's like arguing the refs.
The term shaded falsehoods when it comes to Kamala, and there was no fact checking against her.
I don't think she said anything obviously false.
ABC.
I don't think she said anything obviously false.
She said plenty that was obviously false. Project 2025 is probably the cleanest, clearest one. Show me anywhere, any documentation of Trump having anything to do with Project 2025.
Well, a great deal of his former staff have put it together. The Heritage Foundation, which is one of his largest supporters. I mean, he could deny it as much as he wants. They're tied to him. They've been tied to him. I mean, we could argue about it all day.
The very fine people thing. He said very clearly, I'm not talking about white supremacists. He said there are very fine people on both sides. I'm not talking about white supremacists. He said it in the same darn breath.
He did say, I'm not talking about neo-Nazis and white supremacists, but he did say there are very fine people on both sides, right?
He did.
So one side of the argument was
her argument. She said he called white supremacists very fine people. That's what she said, and that's not the truth.
As I
did
said,
not fact check that at all.
As I said, point to me who wants the Robert E. Lee statue to stay up. What purpose does that serve? What is the motive behind keeping it up?
Preservation of history in that state.
Preservation of history. Right. you could preserve history without having a statue glorifying somebody who was a traitor and a. I mean, I love history. I
Well,
love Civil War
and that's a
history.
fight
I
that
actually went down to Washington and Lee University in Virginia to look at uh, his tomb. I think he's buried there, and his stuffed dead horse Sorrel. I'm into history. I don't think glorifying him in a public square makes any sense other than you think um, it was a glorious cause. Well, what was the cause?
that's a
It
completely
was
different conversation.
he was a traitor. He was actually a Union soldier. He fought for the United States in the Mexican American War. He was trained by the United States, and he turned on his country um, through the succession for what? Primarily states' rights, right? Oh yes, states' rights.
Yep.
That's what the war was about. States' rights. Um, but anyways, I don't. We could argue whether that's. I would say that's shading it. Yes, that might be overstating the case a bit. But again, I don't know of other than historical reasons. I remember seeing it, and it looked like it was mostly people marching in the streets saying Jews will not replace us. Maybe that was just the media coverage. I wasn't down there. Maybe there was people who, you know, the Historical Preservation Society was there, and they had a tent up and were passing out pamphlets on why they wanted Robert E. Lee. Maybe I missed that. I wasn't there, so
It was a historical preservation society that was fighting the removal of the statue. And again, that is a local issue. It's not a national issue. I don't think somebody in Illinois or California or Tennessee really has much standing when it comes to saying what should or should not be
yeah. But
kept in the Carolinas. It was a local issue. It
I would
became a national issue, right? Given the circumstances of the time, as well as um, the circumstances around the statue, right? So you had Trump in the media and trying to call the guy a racist, and then you had people getting upset that the statue was going to be removed, and you had other people wanting the statue removed for valid reasons, and other people wanting it removed out of spite for people. There's all
so
kinds
you
of stuff going on there. But what it comes down to, and I'm not defending whether or not saying that statue should have stayed or not. That's not what this is about. What I'm saying is Trump didn't call white supremacists or neo-Nazis very fine people. In fact, he said clearly the exact opposite. You can make the projection that because they were for keeping a historical
right.
item that they weren't of that nature, that they weren't fine people. You can make that argument.
Okay. Yeah.
But it certainly doesn't lead to him saying that the neo-Nazis and white supremacists were very fine people.
But he's kind of.
And what it comes down to,
if you looked at it isolatedly, Bob, I would say, okay, you're trying to prove your case here, but he's played with that many times before, right? He dabbles in
so has
that
the left.
segment.
The left does it all the time to him. Any chance they get to spin something as him being racist, they do it.
Well, he plays in it. He plays to that crowd. He dog whistles them. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And that's why they do that, because he's his own worst enemy in that regard. Whether he wants to get that vote or not, I don't know how big that vote is, but he definitely dog whistles that group. The Proud Boys who showed up for January 6th. Stand by and stand. What? He's done it. You could go down the list. He's done it. I don't like it, and so that's where that comes from. Yes, technically you are correct. He did not specifically say that, and in it he did say he did not. We don't know who he was referring to about the other fine people, though. If not for them, because like I said, my image was that's who was creating the protest.
So when you consider the garbage that ABC fact checked him on, because I thought that was simply opinion presented as fact, which it wasn't, and ABC, and I think I said it last night, they did it in the middle of a presidential debate. ABC didn't fact check her. They lost all credibility when it comes to impartiality. If
So I think they
it,
fact checked them 3 times, right?
there was the
There
fine,
was there
or
was
there was
there was
the
the cats,
yeah,
the cats. So they shouldn't have stopped them there.
absolutely not. They
Okay.
shouldn't have.
So the fact that he was implying that migrants, which even J.D. Vance was smiling at after when he was interviewed after the after the debate, saying, "Well, we were just using the memes to kind of raise the profile of the issue. Sort of nobody should have been taking it seriously.
It would be like
You
you in
you
a
were
job
fine with
interview.
that letting go."
Be like you in a job interview, and whoever you're interviewing against being allowed to come in the room and say, "Oh, no, that's wrong because of this," and then
So they shouldn't fact
it's not
check
even real.
somebody in real time.
No,
You said so if
what's
either
most
side could
frustrating to
say
that?
whatever
Well,
they
there's two
want.
things, right? Right. If you're going to fact check one, fact check the other, which didn't happen, and there were plenty of cases where they could have fact checked her.
Well,
Number two, the fact checks they had were false, or
well, the cat thing wasn't false.
very fine people hoax is false.
They didn't.
They didn't fact check
They fact
Kamala
checked
on it.
that.
They did not. When Kamala said it, they did
Okay.
not fact check
No,
it.
let's go over the ones that
But
they fact
okay,
checked
so
Trump
there was
on.
the pet one, right?
The
There
Pat.
was the pet
Okay,
one.
you weren't good with that.
There's video evidence out there. There's a police report out there. There's other videos out there that people are crying about their dog being decapitated by a Haitian. Now, some of these videos you could argue, show me the evidence this isn't an actor. That's fair. The ones with the police or a 911 call, I think, are very clearly accurate, or at least credible, right?
So the city manager's lying. I
Saying
mean,
I spoke
I
to the
don't
city
know.
manager and they didn't have any evidence of that, whatever. It's presenting an angle when it didn't need to be presented, right?
I'm fine with no fact checking, I guess, because it could be done after the fact. I personally, I didn't like them cutting in and fact checking. I think that's the other side.
It was
Kamala,
infuriating.
I mean, they both should defend themselves if something is being said wrong. So I sort of agree with you there, but I think he provides them many more opportunities to fact check than on the other side, with some of his lies. So he's his own worst enemy in that regard, and I think even his advisors and his supporters would say that.
I think he
So
did
don't
okay.
provide them the opportunity, right? Don't say stuff like that. Why are you saying stuff about cats and migrants? Why are you bringing that up in a debate?
Well, yeah,
It's
and
going to
I
work
think
against them, right?
it maybe
It makes them
we'll
look
see. Well,
makes them look.
that's part of why I think you did all right, because that was the most viral moment, is whether
Well,
or not migrants might want to eat
yeah,
with pets.
that
was the big
the
story right
2%
after the debate on social media.
2% on on social media.
And that's
The
the one
2%
time
of
that he
people
got
who pay
Kamala to
attention.
cackle like she does, and therefore I think
All right.
when
You think it was effective?
when you have social media talking, the biggest things that came out of that last night on social media that I noticed, and then today from talking to people, were that moment about the pets. If that's what is being talked about on social media, then they're not talking about Trump winning or losing, or Kamala winning or losing. I think that's a win for him.
So it's a weird strategy, but whatever.
Fair enough, maybe so. And
Especially for somebody who wants to be
the other
president
main
of the
thing they were
United
talking
States.
about is that fact checking, and how it appeared that Trump had, it was further evidence the media's against him, that
Well, they also
it's a setup, and the conversations around that instead of the debate. If that helps anybody, given history, it helps Trump. And,
Well-
and the issues most commonly discussed last night really were issues that voters prefer him on: inflation, economy,
Yeah,
immigration, and preventing world war, which he nailed her on Afghanistan pretty good, I think. And they don't. I think.
Well, she
He's
did
gonna be
come
okay
back
there.
and say you negotiated with the Taliban. It was his deal. Now, yeah,
But on the other breath, she's saying we should be negotiating with Hamas, right? So, which is it?
I don't think we're negotiating. Israel's negotiating because
Well, yeah. She's saying Israel should be negotiating with Hamas. So, of course, she hasn't really taken a policy stance on much of anything. But which is it? Do you want to negotiate with terrorists or not?
Well, Hamas is, I think, an elected body in Gaza, right?
She left
Like it or not.
billions of dollars of our military equipment in Afghanistan when she left.
Yeah, there's no denying that. I think he could have hit a little harder. He brought it up. Um, yeah, I mean, the point being that he gets off on these, and she goaded him. I mean, she goaded him, and he took the bait a lot of the time.
Yep. Yeah, and I
Uh,
think you're right.
which
I mean,
which
it's
which I think gets his. Uh, I think she failed in the beginning and the end.
yeah.
Which,
He regained composure, but in the middle,
yeah, he lost his way.
yeah. And I think,
I think that's when I was texting you. He's losing now,
yeah,
and so I think that first question, which she knew was coming, I think she blew it. Like, are we better off, than we were 4 years ago? I mean, that to me,
she
she
just
did come
avoided the
back. She
question.
did come back around to it. She should have started. Okay, let's remember where we were at 4 years ago. We were in the middle of a pandemic that he largely botched. That he said that was going to be gone in 4 weeks, and clearly it wasn't. We're actually still dealing with it. People are still getting COVID. Um, the economy was losing jobs. It was still in a lockdown mode. We just had gotten the vaccines. We needed to get them in people's arms. Um, so what did we do? We instituted this stimulus, whether you like it or not. The economy recovered. People were claiming there was going to be a recession. No recession. We did have inflation. The whole world had inflation, largely due to supply chain issues, due to the COVID, which again he botched. We did infrastructure. We did the CHIPS Act. We
Inflation
did
really took off after that war with Russia too, between Russia and
right.
Ukraine, which was not, which was permitted to happen by Biden, and that's an
Permitted.
argument we're getting
Yeah, I think we
into.
talked about
It's
that.
I mean, and it's off topic, but you know exactly
But
what's going to
but I'm
happen, right?
saying
I
that
mean,
that's kind of how
what would
she
have
should
happened
have.
anyway? We just poured billions into it.
That's how she should have answered that question. Kind of saying, okay, let's remember where we were at in January 2021. We had just gone through 3 weeks earlier an insurrection. There was an impeachment trial. Half the country or more was still in lockdown or some form of that. And the worst case scenario did not happen. Yes, we did have. You don't deny that there was inflation. Of course, there was inflation.
Well,
Um,
how do you know that the worst case scenario didn't happen? Maybe this is the worst case scenario we're living
because
in right now.
because people were claiming that there was going to be a recession and the world was going to fall apart, and actually we got vaccines in people's
Yeah, but
arms
if that action
despite
wasn't taken, would the
resistance.
world have fallen apart?
Well, we don't know. I mean,
That's what I'm
all
saying.
we
We don't know.
well, it could have been. We do know it could have been worse.
Maybe.
Okay,
Well, maybe.
okay. I would say that there are plenty worse scenarios than what we went through.
That doesn't
So
mean those scenarios would have played out if they had been allowed to,
no,
or
but
if things
experts
would have
were
been done
claiming it
differently.
was going to happen, and it didn't.
Experts were claiming that 10 years ago there was going to be no polar ice caps left, too.
Well, they are melting, I think. Um, so I think she failed in that regard. I think the abortion issue was kind of interesting. Neither of them really answered the question, right? Trump didn't say he
I
would.
think he handled that pretty well. I think,
He's trying to play both sides on that, and I understand why, but he didn't answer the question whether you would sign an abortion ban. He just basically said it's never going to happen.
he
Uh,
said, I'd leave it up to the states, and that's where it's at now, and that's where it should be, and most people agree with that it should be left up to the states. And I think he did say that he would vote
yeah,
against it
I
in
don't think
Florida
I
and
don't
the
think most
state.
people. He said everyone. Number one, he said everyone wanted what he did,
Yeah, well,
which was hardly. You said most. I don't even know if it's most. I'm guessing it's not most. Want what? And I think she came back pretty hard on that, and I think she did a good job pointing out, the cases where women can't get healthcare services when they need it
and the
because of.
biggest, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
And to me, it doesn't matter whether the states do it or not, because the people who are living in those states are suffering from those policies. Yes, you could say they can move and go somewhere else, but it's not easy. As we've pointed out before, that's not an easy thing to.
Conversely, unborn children living in those states will be able to continue to live in those states. So I don't know. I don't like that argument at all. The thing that's most frustrating about this whole argument to me right now is the fact that I was enjoying watching the debate with my kids, 5 and 9, until that subject came up, and then I had to tell them, go to bed, because it's just not a conversation. They were very interested in the debate, and they were asking me a
Oh,
lot of
really?
questions. Oh yeah, they were
They're going to
they
be
were asking
political
both
junkies
of them.
like you.
They were asking so many questions, and then that subject came on, and I was like, these are the type of questions that it's not time to be able to answer yet. Like, what is abortion? What does that mean? Why would you do that? And so I had to be like, all right, go to bed. Can't watch this. That kind of thing is just, it's frustrating to me. And I think it's too bad, it really is. But that's the only point I wanted to make about that. It's, that sucks.
And you were fine with them listening to the cat eating part
Well, we
as a
didn't get
cat
to
owner.
that. We did not get to
Oh, you
that
didn't
point
get that part? The abortion
because
came first?
it came first. Yeah.
Okay. I have some other notes here. So then I think she was asked whether she would ban, I guess, late term abortions, or I think it was 7 to 9 months,
Yeah.
and she didn't answer that question
No,
either.
she
Which,
looked down. That's the one time in the debate I noticed where her body language changed. She looked down, she looked away. She did not want to answer that, and she wasn't forced to. She
yeah,
should have been asked that question. Why didn't ABC ask her that question? It
they
seemed like
did. She didn't. She didn't answer it.
I don't think they did. He said you should ask her this, and then they didn't.
Oh, all
He
right.
asked her. He said, would you do this?" She looked down and away, and then he looked at the moderators and said, "You should ask her that question." And they didn't. And I mean, I didn't really get too hung up on that because you don't want candidates saying, "Ask this question to that person, ask this question to that person," back and forth. That doesn't solve anything either.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a missed opportunity for her. I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't know too many people that are big on late term abortions, except for certain exceptions. But um, I suppose there's a fringe that's all about that. Um, so I wrote down Muir fact check Trump on crime figures too, when he said crime was going up. Um, I think he said that's not the case. Crime is going down. So, which is interesting.
Yeah, and that's another one, right? Because crime reporting standards have changed. In some cases, cities are not reporting crime anymore or reporting crimes as crime anymore. And of course, you could potentially take drug laws and consider those to be crimes as well. And in some states, they're not crimes anymore. And federal reporting standards have changed too. So many crimes don't need to be reported anymore, or in some cases at all. Um, so, it's statistics. You can make the argument on both sides, which fine. I'm not making a point there one way or the other. That all I'm saying is that's another very, very gray area, such a gray area that ABC should not have been
Should
fact
have.
checking him on. And
Yeah, I mean, I think we both agree that
it's
they
terrible. It
shouldn't
looks
be they
terrible.
shouldn't be doing that.
In an environment where media trust is already at all-time lows, why would they do that to themselves? What's the point?
I mean, I'm fine with fact checking after and having the media go through it,
Sure.
but during a debate,
Yep.
it's because you don't know what's being said next, and it disrupts and people are like, oh wow, it does raise a red flag, and I'm surprised that wasn't part of the rules that they agreed to. Like if I was Trump, I would say you can't do that, right?
I think
He
he
won
was.
on the microphone thing, but and several times they allowed him to speak when he shouldn't have been speaking. I mean,
That's true. Yeah, they did.
I think he got 5 more minutes in than her. So, I mean, there's that. I mean, but I would say overall, I am not a big fan of whining about the moderators. I would say they could have done a better job. One, making them answer. I would like them to make them answer the question somehow. They should be able to cut their mics when they, you know, start answering another question. And then, yeah, the fact checking thing, you know, it's hard to say question wise, but I think the questions tended to favor her more.
It
Um,
wasn't just the questions, it was how they were framed and then who they were handed to first. So I think there was some strategy in, okay,
yeah,
ask
I'm not
question
going to get
A of
in.
Trump because she gets the follow up.
I wouldn't get into any
It
conspiracy
just, it just, because the
theory of
order
it.
was odd because it went like question to Kamala, question to Trump again. Why wouldn't you just go back and forth? I noticed a lot of that, like odd pacing, if you will. Yeah, I don't know. It just felt very scripted, for lack of a better way to put it, or planned
Yeah,
maybe.
I I won't go there. Just the general observation. It did seem that the questions asked did sort of work into her favor more. I would say. Um, I didn't keep track, but it just seemed that way. Maybe it was because she was performing so well that it seemed like the questions were favoring her because she was doing a better job addressing them or gaining points on them, whatever you want to call it. Interesting that they brought up the fact that he, I guess, over the weekend said he lost the election by a whisker, and then he replied, "Oh, that was just said sarcastically, right?"
Yep.
Which I think was the first time he addressed that. So I didn't hear when he said it. Somebody pointed that out to me that he finally admitted, and that was a short term concession. And then he kind of just blew it off from there. I think he said it regarding the last election. It was old news. Um,
Yeah, and that's the way he should have handled a lot of that stuff, like the crowd size stuff. Like just blow it off, because he wasted good time that he could have used to go after her on things that mattered.
yeah, I mean that's the point. That when he gets distracted, when he gets goaded, when he not only does he not come off too well because he starts. I mean, he definitely word saladed it more than she did at some point. I forgot what question he was just going in multiple directions at once, um, which just is not a good look. It might work in his rallies, but when you're playing to a much larger audience, I think he has it in him to be more direct than that and attacking. And I think you know too often he failed, which then brings up the point um, in regards to I guess Kamala's campaign came out afterwards asking for another debate. Um, is that a good idea or not? Because you're again giving him an opportunity. Um, I don't know what upside she would have because when I think of it, Hillary won the first debate against him, and the second one I believe he won, which was then closer to the election. So it's the last thing in your mind. And does she think she can perform better? I think she had missed opportunities, but I think he had more missed opportunities. So I, to me, unless you're, and I think this is their strategy that they're bluffing that they want another debate, just so they could say we went out there and we're offering it, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're somewhat right there.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
but
I just don't think they're serious about having another debate.
I I honestly, even I said it last night. I don't think that it. I don't think it's going to sway things at all, or much further. And here's why. Right in the past, if you think about, I think there were 65 million viewers or something last night, which is a pretty high number. I don't know how many people are going to vote. In the last election, it was probably nearly half the country, maybe 150 or 160 million
Yeah,
people, right?
yep,
So, um, half of the people that are going to vote potentially saw the debate. You will figure some will see stuff in news coverage, some will see memes about the debate, some will see social media. It more than ever depends on your bubble, right? I don't know how many independents are out there that are living outside of the far left or far right bubble anymore. I think algorithms are kind of getting to the point where you're on one side or the other, and your views are getting reinforced, right? So in the past, you would have had people looking, watching the debate, making a decision based on the debate, and then maybe some news coverage for the rest, kind of swaying their opinion one way or the other. Now, I'm not so sure that really happens anymore. I think people are seeing things through the filter of their own beliefs and experiences, and I'm really not sure how much it matters. I think Trump loves attention and media. I think, even when it comes to a debate, he likes to see, hey, 65 million people were watching me last night. So I think he'd like to do another one just for that, just for the opportunity. Um,
Yeah, I
from
mean,
the,
I would be surprised if he doesn't agree to one
yeah,
because I think he has more of the upside coming back around. Because she's seen him debate. This was the first time he saw her debate, right? So he can learn some things from the way her tactics, right? Whether he'll actually implement it or not, that's another thing. But clearly, she could she had the ability to study his debate performance and know what set him off. So we'll see. We'll see if he agrees to one. I think he should, even if it's on NBC or whatnot. Um, but then I guess the downside is if you in theory then don't improve your performance, then it sort of confirms what people think. But like you said, who are they trying to sway?
yeah,
To me, the Dems need to build enthusiasm because I don't know. I mean, the independents, I think, are I don't know. I think they'll more likely split down the middle or even favor Trump. I don't know.
I do think there's a lot of people out there that won't admit maybe who they're going to vote for if it's Trump because they don't want to be called a racist. Then again, I'm not sure how effective polling is anyway because who's answering their cell phone to a number they don't recognize anymore?
Not I.
And I think fair polling, the way it's written, it's got to be truly anonymous. And the minute you put on somebody's caller ID that it's Gallup calling or New York Times polling or whoever it happens to be, it's no longer uh, really random, right? Because now people are making the choice to answer because they want to be surveyed. So yeah, I don't know really. I guess the thing I kind of go on is you look to circles of people that truly maybe in the past haven't been political or having political conversations and they suddenly are, and which way are they leaning? But again, that's it's not scientific. It's just kind of a vibe, right? So I don't know. It's hard to say, and that's why I think now too things are getting a little more heated, right? Because people really, it's kind of like a football game. It's 2 minutes left in the game. You're down by three, or you're down by two. What's going to happen? That's what election night is like.
Yeah. Well, maybe the enthusiasm will kick up now that Taylor Swift has endorsed her.
So let me ask you this:
Yeah.
who's your favorite artist, musician, whoever it happens to be? Artist, comedian, just your favorite one.
I don't have one. I would say Robert Smith of The Cure.
Okay, so
If
Robert
I
Smith of The
wanted,
Cure
if I
comes out and
wanted to
says he's
meet
voting
it,
for Trump and endorsing Trump. Is that
yeah,
going to sway your vote?
I, yes, but no, but I'm not a Swifty. She seems to have a pull amongst them that is a special relationship. Let's
So
just
you're
say.
saying that Taylor Swift
I
fans are
love the Swifties, by the way.
mindless
Don't come
drones
after
that are going
me.
to vote
Don't come
without
after me.
thinking for themselves? Is that
No,
what you're
that's not what
saying?
I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. They're all strong-minded young men and women, and some aren't that young. Um, no, I'm just saying she has a special relationship with her Swifties.
She's made
And
a career about singing about bad decisions she's made in choosing people.
be careful what you say, Bob. They'll come after you.
She's made a career singing about bad decisions she's made choosing people.
Okay.
Okay? I'm not making a judgment on
Relationships.
Travis Kelsey, Kansas City Chiefs fan. I'd be happy to make one about Caleb Williams, Bears fan. But my point is, I, Kamala, okay, she's now making a new choice with Kamala. This is another bad decision. I don't know.
And
That's a
Kamala.
half joke. Whatever, right? My point is, I've got a favorite artist. I've got lots of artists I like out there. But if they came out today and told me to vote for somebody that I thought was a bad choice, I certainly wouldn't do it, right? If
I
I
didn't.
listened,
I don't think she said to vote for her. I think she just said I'm voting for her. Right.
and if I yeah, no, that's what she said. But it wouldn't sway me either way. I don't, it's just kind of one of those things. It's if I took my favorite artists' political opinions seriously, I'd stop enjoying their art because it would become more personal, right? It's That's their choice. They've got a right to it. I support them to have a choice, but it's not going to swing
You don't.
my vote.
Right. You're not basing your enjoyment of their art and their music or performance or whatever, and saying, well, they're great at that, so I should follow them
Right.
in the political realm or any other opinion they have outside of basically the art they produce. And I agree with that, right? I do think that people say, you know, they should just shut up and they shouldn't be involved in anything. But I don't agree with that either. I think they have a right to do that. They can
Yeah, I think
express their opinion and and whether it's being an activist or you know the Green Day concerts. Clearly, Green Day has a political opinion,
it's
and
very
that infuses
interesting
their
with
concerts too.
what they used to say about Dick Cheney and how much, when American Idiot came out and all the mean stuff they had to say about Dick Cheney, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden now they're on his side.
Well, did
They
you
haven't
see
said
the
much
Daily
about
Show
that.
last night?
I did not.
Okay,
He did
watch
that
it.
last minute, right? With
Yeah, he did it live,
John Stewart did.
and he Jon Stewart went after Dick Cheney, which, to your point, yeah, just because he is going to vote for Kamala now, uh, that doesn't mean that we should. He told him to f off, right?
He's a war
Uh,
hawk.
he told that's basically what he said,
I
and
think Kamala
and
and Joe Biden are too. That's just my opinion.
and
But
that just because he's endorsing, yeah, that doesn't mean we cozy up to him, which is the right thing, right? Um, can't be your friend, your enemy one day, and your friend just because they change their mind on something. They're still the same individual, although it did. You know, I don't know whose opinion he will sway one way or another by saying that he's going to vote for her, but I guess there are a couple people out there still in the Dick Cheney fan club that will that will do that. I mean, it'll be interesting if Bush ever comes out and says that.
it's
Um,
it's interesting to think that half the country is not even going to vote, and they're not even going to pay attention to it at all.
that's
And
crazy, isn't it?
and then there's another. It's interesting as well to think that there's some people that, and to try to figure out what percentage of people are going to vote and haven't paid attention at all yet, or truly haven't decided. You
That's
know what I
scary,
mean?
isn't it? To me, that's scary.
It's
I mean, it's a dereliction of our duty as citizens, right? Don't you
Well,
think?
I
I
don't know
mean,
if I go that far. I
I
think
do.
it's amazing to me. It's something that I really do think about pretty often. I don't know what the numbers are, so I don't know how severe the consequences of that are, or what they actually are, for that matter. You
I
don't want
just
to vote. It's you. I support free speech, and I think refusing to vote is a
no,
free speech
I
right.
don't agree with that. I think it's our duty as citizens. I don't like the idea that somebody says, "Oh, I'm not going to vote. I'm not into politics." When you consider the people who have sacrificed their lives so you could vote and decide on your representative government. I understand the cynicism, but by not voting, you're really giving into the the cynicism, aren't you? Um, you're not
But
going to
not
change. You're not going to
nobody.
change anything by not voting.
That's assuming a motive for not voting. Some people just don't care. Some people aren't well
Well,
informed and shouldn't vote. If you know nothing at all and you go out there and you vote,
no,
does that put us in a better spot?
well, again, you're you're in dereliction of your duty as a citizen by not being informed. Uh,
Yeah, but
there's
that's like
there is an
everybody should go to
obligation.
college.
There is a civic duty. No, it's not about going to college. It's a
Well,
civic duty. It's a civic duty to be informed and watch the debate and make a decision. That's like I said. We've fought wars. We've come a long way. Uh, we're very privileged in the history of societies. This is a fairly new thing over the last 250, 300 years. Before the king told you to set all the rules, it's a damn well imperfect system, but it's the most perfect system humans have ever come up with. And by not being informed, you're basically risking that.
forcing
You're
people
risking
to
that
vote
system.
and forcing
You're
people to
risking that
vote
system.
and be informed changes the system right off. Because we've never done that.
Well, forcing people
You
and
used to
having
have to
people,
own land to vote, didn't you?
well, forcing people and having people accept this as a civic responsibility, which I don't think most people do, and we should make it. I mean, they wear their buttons. I voted like it's something special. We should put the buttons on the people who don't vote. Should be like a scarlet letter. No, I understand what you're saying about being ill-informed and that, and I don't agree that you should be ill-informed either. You should take it seriously. We should all take it seriously. Anyone over 18 should take it seriously. These people can send you off to war. These people could drop a bomb. These
Yeah,
people
I agree
can
with you.
do so many things that affect your
They
life day
they
to
could
day,
they
and
could
you
send your
don't,
daughter
and you
and
can't
force
be
your daughter
bothered,
to go into a draft.
right?
Yeah.
And you can't be bothered to pay attention to it and vote. That's sad. And I wish more people would talk about that. We sort of like we make it, rock the vote and get registered. I mean, there are drives, but we should make it that the people who don't do that should be shamed. Not that I'm into shaming, but I just think it's yeah, it's wrong. It's just and it doesn't bode well for the continuation of everything that we've been given in this country and fought for. So that's just my soapbox on voting.
Yeah, I think we've had that conversation before.
I have a little
I
different opinion than you do in regards to
did,
that.
did we have a guest or was it maybe?
Yeah, it was the 100% democracy.
Yeah, that's right.
Whether we actually force people to vote, um, and yeah, I think she had brought up the point that yes, they need to be educated and and take this as a duty, and we should incorporate that into our schooling, and everyone coming out should automatically think that they, and we have gotten more participation. I don't know why, at least on the presidential side versus state and local and some other things, which you can make the argument those affect your life even more than a presidential in some ways. But I try to vote in. It's hard to keep track of all the elections, but I think I do a pretty decent job.
The truth is the local elections affect us far more than the national elections. I think it's become more apparent than ever that most of our government's run by somebody other than the president. I don't even know if the president really does anything anymore. They,
Yeah, and I'll be the first to admit I don't. There are some of the local elections that I don't know that
I,
much about,
I
and I'm
certainly don't
embarrassed
believe
by it. Right?
Biden is running the country right now. I'll tell you that.
Nope, he's not. And as Trump pointed out, he probably doesn't even know he's alive. He did say that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did say that.
An interesting comment. And he did when she was saying that, you know, the leaders of the world and the military don't respect you. He did bring up Viktor Orban, who is a strong. Viktor Orban loves me.
Yep.
It's like, really?
Did you see
I
Biden
actually just started
put on
laughing.
a
I'm like,
Trump 2024 hat today? I sent you that video, didn't I?
yep, yep. I did see that. Well, they were all
Firefighters,
together.
some firemen got him to grab the hat or take the hat, and then got him to put it on and snap a photo with it. That's
You think it's an endorsement? You think he hates
uh,
Kamala? Kamala?
no,
Who said he hates?
no, I'm not
Didn't
saying that at
didn't
all.
Trump
I don't think he's with it.
didn't Trump say last night that Biden hates Kamala? Or was I just dreaming that?
I don't remember that, but there were moments of the debate where I was either telling my kids they needed to go to bed
Okay, I'll have to look that up.
or furiously texting you. So there must be things.
And the other point that I think he failed was on the. I don't know why healthcare isn't a bigger issue. I mean, they did talk about the ACA, and I think she did a good job. I was screaming. I'm like, bring up John McCain, bring up the no vote. How many times they tried to kill the ACA, but again, he failed by saying, "I have a concept of a plan for healthcare." I'm surprised the Dems should. I think in the midterms in 2022, one of the midterms they won on the healthcare issue, and I think again they should. I think healthcare is such a critical
I
issue.
don't know. I think 2022 is more. Well, it's hard to say. I don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
think
said,
I think healthcare is still a critical issue, and I think they're not really driving that. I think it's been a winner for them before, because clearly he has nothing um, to better
and
or replace what's in place. I mean, he's not necessarily. He's sort of backed away from killing it. I think killing the ACA because I think he realizes it's a non winning, especially if you don't have anything better. They're trying to label her with Medicare for all and and kind of left wing stuff. So they're trying to bring it up, but I think that's going to be a loser for them if they push it. So I thought that was interesting that he called it a concept of a plan.
there's
Uh,
very obviously some issues with healthcare in the country.
yes.
The fact that you can get bills 2 years later, you know what I mean, for something that's a
Yep.
problem.
Yep. The
Uh,
whole system's kind of
if you have insurance, it's one price. If you don't, it's another, and the prices aren't even close to in the same stratosphere. I mean, it's yeah. There's a lot of interesting arguments to be made there. At the same time, I don't think we should be socializing healthcare, and I think that's the problem with that debate recently. Is it's been all about socializing healthcare rather than making some common sense changes and standards where it's it's not the insurance companies as much as it is these healthcare companies that are just because again, if the healthcare company's charging an insurance company $15,000 for a procedure that they're charging an individual without insurance $5,000 for, there's obviously an issue there, and it's obviously coming from the healthcare side of things. It's a problem.
yeah. I mean, it's very complex. I studied it when I went to go get my PhD. I have my own opinions on where I think we're gonna need to end up. I'm not a huge fan of socialized medicine, but I haven't seen our system work anywhere else in the world. And I know that we pay a lot more for our healthcare with mixed results, let's say, than a lot of other countries in the world. Um, Partially because I think the incentives around our healthcare system are wrong.
Yeah, I mean, a
Um,
logical place to start would maybe be taking it away from the personal aspect and doing more of a like tort reform, right? Because I don't know what percentage of fees and insurance for doctors and things like that comes from getting sued for something that it's
defensive medicine,
I
defensive
don't even think
medicine does play a part.
I don't think
Um,
doctors in some cases. It's probably rare where a doctor or a hospital even fights a claim anymore.
but there is a lot of medical error. Um, so some of it is justified. Um, you can cap stuff, but we don't need to get into healthcare at this point. So let's try to sum up
I
the
don't think you.
debate.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the last question was. I'm trying to remember what the last question was. Um, oh, they were just summarizing, And I think his point was, and I think it's somewhat decent, but I think she failed in summary in the opportunity of anticipating where he was going to go. Sort of the, oh, she's talking about all these things. Why hasn't she done them? Which I think is a somewhat fair argument, but she could have basically said, well, one, we had to clean up COVID. We got more
COVID's
done.
been over for
We
plenty of years.
we
I,
we
I,
we got, well, that was the first year. I would say COVID was year one.
I
We
do
got
think,
infrastructure done, which over 4 years you didn't get done. We got the CHIPS Act done. Over 4 years you got nothing done, which cost us in COVID, which drove some of the inflation that we're seeing. Um, we wrestled. We did the Inflation Reduction, whether you agree with the green energy, all of that stuff that was in there. They did get it done. So three
yeah, but
big
that
things.
it wasn't inflation reduction. It was called inflation reduction. It was
Well, it
pumping a
was a
bunch of
bad
money
name.
towards
It was a
special
bad
interests. Of
name.
course it was.
I think um, so, and I think her other plans are different from what they've had before. So, and she could have said, "What did you get done? Otherwise, you didn't build the wall, which you basically ran on. Uh,
No, he certainly
you
tried.
you
The
failed to
Democrats fought him on it.
you failed to get rid of ACA and replace it with anything better. Again, something you ran on. Uh, and you failed to get reelected, which is pretty hard to do for an incumbent. I mean, she could have just went after him like that. So I think that was another. So I think in the beginning and in the end, he did a better job, and she missed some opportunities on either of those. Which again, she should have been better prepared because both of those, she knew that they were coming. Um, but
Yeah, but they both could have been, the fault leans more heavily on her. I think could have been heavier on policy.
well, they both didn't really
How are
cover
you going to
policy.
do what you say you're going to do? That's what I
But
want.
he didn't really have I mean, other than tariffs and mass deportation, he didn't. I mean, she talked about the housing credit. She talked about um, the tax policy. So I'd like to see a debate where they actually talk more policy. Um, but to me,
Yeah, the format
policy
in
to
one of
me
these days should
policy is
be
going to
how
be
will
very
you, you say you're going to do A, how will you do it?
well. It's going to be tough. I mean, in all honesty, if she even wins, uh, it's highly unlikely they're going to get. I mean, I think the Senate map favors the Republicans whether Trump wins or not. So they're likely to lose all of Congress, right? Um, even even if she wins, especially if it's as tight as it appears. So uh, you'll have a divided government, which I think in general the markets like and whatnot because not much could get done, right?
Right.
I think you've said that you like that too, right?
Yeah, that's
The less
yep,
they could get done, the better.
the better split Congress. If you look back in history at the presidents who had the best economies and overall did the best, really Congress is split. That's what it comes down to.
So, given that, you should vote for Kamala because, like I said, it's more likely than not they already have a Republicans already have a majority in the House, which I haven't heard anything that they're not going to hold that. They might not. I definitely think on the Senate side, that's going to be with West Virginia clearly probably going back. I think Montana is probably in play. It seems like there's many and more in play that the Republicans can grab logically than the Democrats. So to to have to sweep and have a total Democratic if she wins, I think is going to be a long shot. So that's my case for you voting Kamala. So um, take that to heart.
Yeah, no, I'm not voting for Kamala.
I thought I made a good argument there, Bob.
No, yeah, well, that's tough because, well, it's fair, but no. Uh, and I don't even want to get into like the stuff that the left is threatening like expanding the Supreme Court and all that garbage.
Right.
But even if you were to take that seriously, which I don't think they'd
Nope, I
be
don't
dumb enough
either.
to do, uh, that alone, just the thought or the idea of that to me just says that's just plain dumb, stupid. Just on that thought alone, I wouldn't, no. But I don't know. It's interesting. If you look at the polling and a lot of the states that Trump is winning, especially the swing states, Congress goes the other route. They seem to be leaning more heavily for the left. I don't know exactly what that says, other than maybe people really are kind of buying into the whole, like, it's Trump against the world. Trump's the underdog. Let's vote for Trump sort of aspect. But we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out, too. It would be
Yep.
very interesting to see Trump and the Senate together, because I think he'd really firm up the Supreme Court for a few years. But
Further?
yeah, it'd be interesting because Clarence Thomas is probably getting
That's
close,
true.
right?
There probably are a couple in the next term.
Yeah, I would think so. It's gonna get kind of interesting
I
there.
think they're in their late 70s, I think, right? A couple of them.
But to me too, I'm just looking ahead past this election. You get to the next presidential election, regardless of who wins this one. I guess if Kamala wins, she'll be up again, even though I think she's a terrible candidate. They won't primary her. On the Republican side, I'm not sure who would win. Right now, I lean towards Ramaswamy,
I think Vivek.
but I'm not sure because he just has that personality that I think has the best chance right now. And if Trump wins, and you're looking at both Democrats and Republicans running a new candidate the following year, I don't know. I mean, who on the left could do it? I would guarantee you, I bet one, if not multiple, of the squad members run. And with
That would be interesting.
their mouthiness, I think they'd have a real shot at it.
Their mouthiness.
Like at the candidacy, anyway, right? I don't know about the win, but that's what it seems like it is nowadays. It's all sound bites and no policy, and that's what really concerns me for the country. Is
Oh, yeah.
where are we going with this shit? I don't know.
Yep. We need a serious discussion. We've got serious issues. That's why we're here, Bob.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, what we're not thinking about, and it's kind of like a rule of life, right? Life is what happens when you're thinking about or when you're making
Make a
plans,
plan, right?
right? So, I mean, there's very possibly in the next 30 seconds to 30 years something major that'll happen that'll completely reset us. So, who knows?
Well, that could be the Bears winning the Super Bowl. They're 1-0. And the
I'd
Packers
rather.
are
I think I'd
0-1.
rather have Kamala win the presidency than have the Bears win the Super Bowl.
You're on record. It's a Sophie's choice, but you've made it. All right. On that note, all right. Well, I guess we'll talk to you in the month of October when I'm back in town.
Great.
All
You
right.
have a safe trip.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.